Today we're going to talk about beetroots. So beetroots are pretty much a staple in most kitchens all year round. They grow best sort of in the summer months till the end of October. When you pick them when they're small, they tend to be a bit sweeter, but the big ones are still good, and the good thing about them is they store really, really well. A lot of people have bad memories about beetroots, eating them not pickled out the jar, and often when you do that, the sort of vinegariness overpowers the natural sweetness of the beetroot. Some people dislike beetroots because they find they taste a little bit too earthy, a bit like how some people dislike coriander. They just don't really get on with that earthy note. Don't worry, there's a good way. There's plenty of sort of other flavorings you can add to beetroot dishes to mask that earthiness and allow the sweetness to come out. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to make something a bit different. It's called a beetroot tikki, and it's basically like an Indian style snack. So we're going to boil them down, we're going to grate them with some potato, add a lot of lovely flavorings, and then fry them off into these little lovely shaped patties. So early season beetroots, when they still have the stems and the leaves attached, the leaves and the stems are perfectly edible, they're delicious, they're very similar to sort of chard, so cook them as you would cook chard or spinach. Later in the season, the stems and the leaves become a bit too haggard, so they're probably best off in the food waste or in the compost bin. A lot of people always ask us, what do I do with my leftover beetroots? What I would say is cook them all when you're going to cook them, because it's a lot easier when you open your fridge to see a plate of cooked beetroots to know what to do with them. They're easy to add into all sorts of dishes, rather than having to go through the process of cooking and peeling them every single time. So for this recipe, what we're going to do is we're going to boil them whole. And when you boil a beetroot, you want to give them a wash, you want to get the mud off, but you don't want to peel them, you don't want to take the stalk off, don't take the root off. If you do peel them or cut the stem or the root off, all that nutrients and colour will like bleed out into the boiling liquid, and that will lose a lot of the flavour and make a bit of a mess. So I've got my beetroots and my potatoes bubbling away in a pan of salted water. Next, I'm just going to get my spice mix ready. So I've toasted off some cumin, some fennel, some coriander, some fenugreek seeds with some chili flakes, and now in a pestle and mortar I'm going to grind them to a fine sort of powder. Then I'm going to grate some ginger and some garlic in, and that'll be ready for when the beets are good. So the beets and the potatoes are boiled. They're not completely soft, but you can push a fork through and there's only a little bit of resistance in the middle. We don't want to overboil them for this. The easiest way to peel cooked beetroot is to cool it down quickly under a cold tap so they're still warm, and then just using your hands to sort of push away the skin, and it comes off super easy. Now your hands will get a bit messy, but the trick of getting beetroot off your hands is just use something acidic like lemon juice, or just use soap and keep on scrubbing. It's not the end of the world. So there you go, perfectly peeled beet. So now you want to grate your potatoes and your beetroots into a bowl. It'll be super simple because they are nice and soft. Don't worry if it doesn't like perfectly grate and it's kind of mushes. As long as it's in small bits, then it doesn't matter for this recipe. You don't need to worry about peeling the potatoes. You can if you want. I actually quite like the taste, like the slightly earthy bitterness of the potato. So I just leave them on, but obviously if you don't like them, then take the peels off. Next, do the same with the beets. They do go quite slippery, so make sure they don't slip out your hand and you grate your knuckles instead. So just pay attention. And then that little bit you can't grate, that's just your little treat. I love beetroot. So I've mixed the potato and the beetroot together. I've also added my spice mix, and I'm making sure that it's thoroughly incorporated and evenly sort of distributed through. So we don't want some tasting really spicy and the others not. So make sure it's thoroughly mixed in. You'll notice that it's a little bit wet. So to counter this, because if you fried it like this, it all split and sort of disintegrate, you want to add some semolina or some rice flour, cornstarch, or even some breadcrumbs. What this will do is act as a binding agent so it stays together. So you can shape it any way you like. You can use a little cake cutter if you want, or you can just shape it by hand. You can make little balls if you want more of like falafel shape. Once you've done it, sprinkle it with semolina, and then get it in your pan of hot oil. Be careful, it will spit at you, so just go steady, don't just drop it in. Just place it in and let it fry. Don't move these until you're pretty sure that they've gone lovely and golden and crispy, otherwise they'll just fall apart. So after about 5 or 6 minutes, it's time to flip them. You want to go really steady on this, don't just dive into it because you will break them apart. Get yourself a slice, move it slowly under, be really careful not to burn yourself. Once you've got it up, just give it a gentle flip over, and that's perfect. So that's gone lovely and crispy on the bottom side. So now that both sides have had a good fry and they're nice and crispy, it's time to plate up. So just carefully remove them out, and you can let some of the excess oil drain off. You can put them on a bit of blue roll or a bit of J cloth just to soak up some oil, or you can just give them a shake and put them straight onto the plate. These go really nice just on their own with a snack or with a little dipping sauce. What I've done here is I've made like a really easy raita, so just yogurt, cucumber, and a bit of lemon juice, and that's something really nice to dip into it. Conversely, they're also really nice if you're making flatbreads and you want sort of a nice vegan filling for a flatbread. Fantastic for that. Or you can just eat them as like a you know, like a slightly spiced veggie burger. They're really quite versatile. So there we are, really simple, beetroot tikis. Give them a squeeze of lime, dip in your dip, and then dig in. See, because of the spice mix, you still get the sweetness of the beetroot, but all that earthiness is completely disguised. They're really good, actually. So if there's any other vegetable you'd like to see us talk about, cook, or prepare, then write us a comment and let us know. Hit the notification bell and stay tuned for more weekly videos.